Okay. Another in this series of things that people are missing in Ben Hogan's 5 lessons. And this one, for some reason, particularly, I find it annoying when people say his swing was only built for him. He had a terrible hook, and his instructions not useful for most people and would just ruin their swings. Well, that's only true if you don't actually follow all his instructions. So if you do some of the things he was doing and don't do some of the other things, then for sure it can lead to a big slice, which you probably already do anyway, because almost everybody does that. So anyway, he knew what he was doing, in my mind. His instructions are good, but you have to, like he says, golf is a game of all sorts of details. You have to get all the details, not just some of them. So I would talk about one thing. The first thing that everybody gets wrong, and I did something about this before, is he says when you get to the top of the swing, rotate this way as hard as you can. And indeed, if you go to the top of the swing and your top of the swing is here, way back here, and you rotate, then yes, you'll go over the top and slice it. But that's not the way he swung. If you look at his swing, he went here to here, and that was the top. Now, my club is back there. I'm in a perfect spot if I rotate to come from the inside and hit the ball perfectly. So yes, if you don't do this part, and then you do this part, yes, you'll slice the ball. So here's the other one I'm going to talk about today that everybody seems to, without really looking at the book, say he had this super weak grip. And so his grip was so weak and people can't play with that and they have to do all this action. Well, how weak was that grip really? Was his left hand actually crazy weak? I don't think so. So look at the picture carefully. See how many knuckles you're seeing there? That's your view that is being replicated of the hands. So now I'm going to take and do that view for yourself, replicate that for yourself, get a club, replicate that hand. Look, see how much knuckle you're seeing? So replicate, so you're seeing kind of really like 3 knuckles. To me, it looks like 3 knuckles. Yep, I'm seeing most of the back of my hand according to that picture. And to me, that's not a weak grip. That's a neutral grip for me. Weak would be, I don't see any knuckles. Strong would be, I see the whole top of my hand. So no, it's neutral. So why do people think it's weak? They're not looking carefully. So look carefully. See the knuckles, but now look at the thumb. Right? The thumb is straight down the shaft. Not the hand. The thumb is straight down the shaft. So most of us would do this if we took that grip. We would take that hand position and our thumb would be over here with a big gap. So all he's doing is taking the neutral hand position, but then moving the thumb over so it's straight on top. So why is he doing that? What does that do? Well, here's the difference. So if I take how I would take that grip and I just naturally let my thumb go there, when I get to the top, then my club can fall into that gap between my finger and my thumb, right? So I don't have good control with my left hand. But if I take that very same hand position and now just, you know, it's an artificial, it's a deliberate move that you wouldn't come at except by engineering. Take that thumb and press it against here so there's a little pressure between your thumb and your first finger. And now when I go to the top, my club is trapped right there. Now I have the whole length from the end of my hand to here to secure that club. So I've got a much longer lever, which is just mechanically stronger. Right? So now I get to the top, and that club is secure. It's not dropping into my hand and then coming back out on the way back. So that's what he's doing. He's just moving his thumb over to close that gap so the club can't drop. That's it. That's all he does. And then if you take that and you look at that V, it does indeed point to my right eye with what to me is a neutral grip that feels neutral to me, and points to my right eye, and then his other hand now points to the shoulder. And this hand for him is weaker, or looks more on top than mine, but that's partly just because his hands are quite a bit bigger. So if I put my hands, the club as he describes here in my fingers, if you follow the directions, and I just wrap it over, I just don't get as far over, because to get as far over I would have to have the club like here, just because of the size of my hands. So if you follow the directions, put the club like that, fold your hand over. For me, it doesn't go as far over as his, but this hand, unless you run out of right arm, is not going to do anything to the club face. It's only when you run out of your arm that this hand then will close it. So it's really this hand controls the club face as long as you keep this one weak enough and get into the ball with still some arm bend. So now, there it is. I've replicated it. I look down. It looks exactly like him. My thumb wants to go there, but I'm going to make it go there. That's what he's saying to do. And now I can feel that that is right on top of where it's going to hinge. So that's good. And now it's perfect. It's not a big fade. It's a straight ball for me. So beware of other people's interpretation of instruction that they didn't themselves write. Look, if you're going to follow Ben Hogan's instructions about how to swing, look carefully at the details and don't rely on second-hand misinterpretations. You really have to dig into every detail about what he says. So, where does the club sit in your fingers? What is he doing when he does this, right? He's demonstrating it has to rest here, not here, here. You got to do all these little parts, and it's very deliberate. And then when he demonstrates this, we'll go ahead and do that, and then say, okay, there's that hand's that way and this one's that way, and that's what the grip feels like. And you go, oh, that makes total sense. So I see there's a little action like this with this hand, but I'm not gripping it with this hand really. I'm just sort of holding it in the fingers. This hand is very solid. It does all the main work. This hand can have a little pulling action, so I can hinge up with this hand, and I can sort of throw this way with this hand. So it's all very specific, but if you do, oh, his hand was really weak, and then you go like there, and you make your thumb down the middle, but you don't realize now my hand is completely actually under, and that wasn't what he did. It was here, and the thumb was on top. So look at all the details, and then decide for yourself, does that actually work for me? And then if it doesn't, fine. Go a little stronger, go a little weaker, whatever, but just sort of like really look carefully, because there's so many pieces of information that are so specific in here, and then there's things that are actually sort of obscure. I don't know, maybe he deliberately obscured them, or maybe they were so natural to him that he didn't think that that was something he had to tell anybody. Like, obviously this is not the top of the swing. He would have just been like, no, the top of the swing is obviously when I'm here. That's the top of the swing. So some of this stuff is, he didn't think about it consciously probably, that's just where he went to, and then you have to look, where was he when he did this unwinding part. So anyway, there's a lot of details. So, and then I think the biggest piece of instruction from Ben Hogan is observe all the details of how your swing is working and engineer your own swing, really, because your own body will do certain things. So, but pay attention to all these little details and then say, okay, that little movement of the thumb could actually be a big deal, right, for how you hit the ball. So look at all the details and explore different forces and things, but don't sort of dismiss something as that fit him and it doesn't fit me, because you can take all sorts of things out of somebody else's, what they're doing, and reinterpret and piece it together for yourself too.